Good evening. Again, it is good to see each of you here. What a blessing. We are able to gather together and sing such wonderful songs. Thank you, Paul, for leading us in songs of praise and recognizing our God, who is an awe-inspiring God. As you guys know, last week we began a new series of lessons entitled God by Name, wherein I mentioned that we're going to be going through and studying the different names by which throughout the Scriptures God calls Himself. And we began last week by examining the Hebrew word there found for God in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1, the very first name given to God, that being the Hebrew word Elohim. And as we talked about that and discussed that, it's very similar to the Greek word for Godhead that we find in the New Testament. And as we looked at it, basically described or recognized that there's the three in one, the Father, Son, and the Spirit, but all three are one. And so when we think of that and we look at that, it's important to understand that concerning God, that there is one God when it comes to unity in all that they do, but all three in personality, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Today, we're going to be turning to a word or a name for God that is less known. Remember, Elohim is found well over 2,500 times in the Old Testament. Not all of them specifically to our God, the God of creation, but as we discussed, a great many of them were. But we're going to turn our attention today to a Hebrew word, Elyon, which is, when we look at this and examine this here in a moment, though not used as often, still very powerful in what God is describing concerning Himself and His name. This name for God in the Hebrew is found 26 times. And in the Greek is found 9 times within the New Testament. We see it first mentioned in Genesis chapter 14 and verse 18, where it says, "And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest," notice this, "of God Most High." We see it in its Greek or New Testament form there first in Mark chapter 5 and verse 7. "And crying out with a loud voice, he said, 'What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?'" When we look at Elyon, there in the Hebrew, and I'm sure I'm not saying that quite right, but when we look at that particular Hebrew name for God, our God, we see that He is indeed Most High. Now there are 3 points this evening, and if you have your handout, I want us to look at and examine concerning our Most High God. First is our God is Most High over creation. That term Most High, when used when not connected to God, always means the highest of highs, the grandest or the highest height that there can be. When connected with God, obviously it's describing Him as greater than all. He is our God who is Most High. And we see this over creation, don't we? As He created everything in the universe. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 11, we remember what it says there. "For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day." God created the universe. He created it all. It is His. The psalmist in Psalm 89, there in verse 11 said, "The heavens are yours. The earth also is yours. The world and all that is in it, you have founded them." When we think of our God, whom we are here to worship this evening, our God, whom we are here to sing praises to as Paul led us in, to pray to as Mark led us in, to study His Word and grow closer to Him through such as we're looking at now. He is Most High first and foremost because there is no greater than the Creator. Because our God created the universe, passage after passage describes something beautiful, wonderful, and that is the universe praises Him. When God created the heavens and the earth, the stars and all that are in this amazing world and universe we live in. When God created the universe, there's that which stems forth from Him as Most High, and that is everything in creation looks to Him. We usually look at ourselves and such, and we'll examine that here in a moment. But the Scriptures declare and proclaim, listen, everything, all creation, praises the Most High. In Psalm 66 and verse 4 it says, all the earth worships you and sings praises to you. They sing praises to your name. In Revelation chapter 5, verse 13, we remember what happened there. And I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea and all that is in them saying, to Him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. Isaiah 55 and verse 12 declares this, for you shall go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall break forth into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. What's being described? What's being said here? When we think of Elyon there, God says, listen, I am most high. I am above all because I created everything. In 2 Samuel chapter 22 and verse 14, we see these words said here, the Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered His voice. Now I understand and recognize this isn't dealing with the context of creation. But when I look at that particular verse, isn't that exactly what it would have been like? The Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered His voice. He spoke, and it was so. Considering our Creator is creator of all the universe, He is most high over everything. And that includes the fact that He is our God who is most high over us. He created us personally. You know, we've talked about this before. A lot of times, I know growing up, I would think of it like this. Listen, God created Adam and Eve, and then Adam and Eve started being fruitful and multiplying as God suggested and said, and we see that go forth. And then you see Noah, and Noah, after the flood, him and his wife and their sons and daughter-in-laws, they went forth and multiplied like they were told to do, and the earth flourished. The earth was covered. There were some hiccups here and there with the Tower of Babel, but for the most part, people have done that. And so I had it in my mind growing up and thinking, listen, God created Adam and Eve way back then and then has allowed nature to take its course, but you and I know that's not the case, is it? God is most high, not only because He created everything in those first 6 days, but because He continues to create every single one of us. The Most High God, who on the 6th day in Genesis 2 and 7 created Adam and Eve, has been personally creating every single human being since. I'm reminded of what Job declared in Job chapter 10 and verse 11. You clothe me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. We remember the passage there in Psalms, in Psalm 139, verses 13 through 15. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Both Job and the psalmist realized this. God had a personal touch in creating each and every one of us. Like with the rest of creation, our God created us, and therefore that tells us we must personally praise the Most High God. We must make it our mission, our recognition of who our God is, who is Most High, and that because of the personal stamp He has put on us, He has personally knit us together, we, as our Creator above, Most High, we ought to be praising Him. Not sometimes, not a few times, but as it would be said there in 2 Thessalonians, listen, without ceasing in our worship of Him. He is the potter, and we are the clay. Isaiah made that and declared it in Isaiah 64 and verse 8. But now, O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand. When He molded us, knit us together, He created us. And as Most High God, He is worthy of our praise. The very fact that this took place, that He is the potter and we are the clay, that declares the Most High God is who ought to be praised. In Isaiah 43, in verse 21, Isaiah would say this, the people whom I formed for myself, that they might declare my praise. When God created each of us, when He spent His personal time in the womb of our mother, each one of us, He said, I formed him. I knit each of us together. He did that for us. And He did that because He loves us, but as He declared here, He's worthy of praise in such reality. In 1 Chronicles 16, verse 28, it's declared, ascribe to the Lord, O families of peoples, ascribe to the Lord glory and strength, praise and honor. Even in Ephesians, Paul would say this to the church there, to the praise of His glorious grace, with which He has blessed us in the Beloved. What's the point of all this? The Most High God, who created the universe, He created you and I specifically. He took time to know us on a scale that we'll never understand, I don't think. To know us physically and spiritually on a scale that no other could come close to. When we think of our God, He is worthy of praise because He has done that for us. He didn't just create the universe in 6 days and say, well, there it is, and here it goes. And we'll let the hills and the trees and all those praise, and those on the mountaintops and the animals praise. He said, no, He spent time on us that are here tonight. When we consider how fearfully and wonderfully we are made, when we think about the intricacy, what Job said, the flesh and the bones, the sinew, we think of the imagery that's given even back then. How can we not see our Most High's worthiness? How can we not, as clay, want to look up to the potter and say, thank you for molding us? I'm reminded along these lines of what the psalmist said there in Psalm 50 and verse 14. Offer to God a sacrifice of thanksgiving and perform your vows to the Most High. He is worthy of our praise. He is worthy of our worship. Again, He didn't just create the universe and move on. He has spent time with us personally, individually. Not only are we to praise God because He is the potter and we are the clay, but also because our God is most high over judgment. When we think about that and look at that, He is the Most High Judge. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Esther or David, of Sadie and Levi, of Tom and Michael and everyone else here. The God of every single human ever made. He is the Most High Judge. Why is that significant? Why is that important? It's important because, one, the Bible says we need to understand this. I'm reminded there in Deuteronomy 10 and verse 14, it says this, "Behold, to the Lord your God belong heaven and the heaven of heavens, and the earth with it all that is in it." Nahum would declare this in Nahum 1:5, "The mountains quake before him, the hills melt, the earth heaves before him, the world and all who dwell in it." He is Most High Judge. Why does that matter, though? God is and has always been and will always be Judge of the earth. Psalm 94:2, "Rise up, O Judge of the earth, repay to the proud what they deserve." Here we go. This is it. This is why. The God whom we are here to serve tonight is judged not just because of His power and might, but because of His perfect justice. He isn't judged just because He is creator of all, though that alone is enough. He's just, or He's the judge because He is perfect in His judgment. In other words, the Most High is just and fair. There is no other higher than God Himself. There is no other more perfect and fair than our Most High God in His judgments. In Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 18, "Therefore the Lord waits to be gracious to you, and therefore He exalts Himself to show mercy to you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for Him." In Job 34 and verse 12, we read this, "Of a truth, God will not do wickedly, and the Almighty will not pervert justice." God is perfect and fair in all that He does. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 4, "The rock, His work is perfect, for all His ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is He." Again, why is it so important that our Most High is the judge? Because you and I don't have to rely on creation, but the Creator. As of September 2019, just a few months ago, the Innocence Project, a well-known group of people that work on behalf of those they deem and then strive to see if they can prove it, or wrongfully convicted. As of September 2019, the Innocence Project confirmed that 365 DNA exonerations had taken place due to the organization that they had developed and had worked with. 20 of those were death penalty cases. Why do I bring that up? Because of these 365 people, all of them were judged by other people. All of them were, as the DNA proved out, were found innocent of the crimes they had committed. As we said, even 20 on death row. Why is it significant to know that our Most High God is judge? Because He is perfect in His judgment. You and I don't have to rely on men. We don't have to rely on others, whether or not they see and are fair in their characteristics, in their judgments of us, in their character thoughts of us. God knows everything. He knows us inside and out. He knows our motives, our means, our opportunity. He knows all of those things. And He is just in judging us. As Jeremiah in Lamentations 3:37 through 38 declared, "Who has spoken and it come to pass unless the Lord has commanded it? Is it not from the mouth of the Most High? that good and bad come. When we think of God the Most High, when we think of what that name means, for you and I, it means not only is He the potter of everything created, including us, it automatically means He is worthy of our praise. But it also means that you and I, though we strive as we might to try to live peaceably with all and to always put the right foot forward, it means we don't have to rely on anyone else on the judgment day. No one else is going to be able to say for me or you, listen, this is my judgment to heaven or to hell based on that. You and I, Most High God is Most High, Judge of all. In Psalm 97 and verse 9, we read this: For you, O Lord, are most high over all the earth. You are exalted far above all gods. As we examine our life and we think of our God, let us never forget who He is. The three are one, and the one is three, and they are most high. There is no greater than the God whom we are here to serve today. There is nothing and no one who is worth us putting above them. The Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Not family, not friends, not co-workers, no one is higher and more worthy of recognition and praise than the Most High God. This evening, as you reflect upon this and think about that, as you think of your life, I pray you're relying on Him who is Most High. Once again, I don't know about you. Actually, I do. I know you guys. You, like me, are thankful that we have someone we can trust. We have someone who's going to judge us rightly. We have someone who knows us better than we probably even know ourselves. As you reflect upon your Most High God, give your all to Him and rely on His love, care, and concern to comfort you as we talked about this morning. But if there's someone here who's struggling, if there's someone here who's maybe put someone or something above the Most High God in their life, make that change now. Don't go out those doors and drive back home and do whatever you're about to do. Make that change if you're struggling with that. And if you would like us to help you, to pray with you, to encourage you and strengthen you, and pray to the Most High God, our Most High God, then let us help you in that endeavor by coming forward now as we stand and as we sing.